And now it's time for The Catch, which takes you around the Great Lakes to hear from reporters about the issues they're covering.
In Duluth, Minnesota Public Radio's Dan Crocker has been looking into a growing sector of Great Lakes tourism.
This past summer was a record-setting year for cruise ships in the Great Lakes, and that's meant a lot more tourists coming to the region, and it's also meant economic development for cities in the region like Duluth, Minnesota, where I'm based.
While the cruise industry isn't new to the Great Lakes, it's been modest up until this year. Estimates indicate nearly 20,000 people will cruise the Great Lakes this year on more than 100 cruises.
A big change this year that's helping to drive the growth is that a new player came into the Great Lakes, Viking, which is a really big name global brand in the cruise industry. Viking made a commitment to the Great Lakes. They have a specific ship called the Octantis that they built. And that's a big deal, experts tell me, because when a player like Viking comes into the market, that means that other large cruise companies could also be looking to follow suit.
And while more cruises are a big deal, the cruise ships themselves are small, or at least smaller than the massive ocean liners many people equate with cruises.
Great Lakes ships are much smaller, and that is because they have to be smaller because they have to fit through the locks in the St. Lawrence Seaway. So these ships hold, on average, about 200 people. The Viking ship I mentioned holds nearly 400 people. So they're a lot smaller, and that actually is a big part of the appeal.
The cruises offer passengers a chance for bi-national sightseeing, with stops in small resort towns and larger cities in the Great Lakes region.
They all go to cities both on the American side and the Canadian side of the border.
Investment in new customs facilities in Cleveland and Duluth is another factor adding to the recent growth in the cruise industry.
These are permanent sites, and that's a big deal for these cruise companies because in the past, they often had to work individually with customs to set up sort of these temporary facilities to have their passengers go through customs.
Dan says many cities in the region, including Duluth, are betting on economic growth from the cruise industry itself and the influx of visitors aboard these ships.
I know Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for instance, has really invested in having their city be a place where cruise ships can depart from and also end their trips on. And that's sort of the next step up for cities is when they can have cruises beginning or ending at their cities. Then that really brings folks in before their trips or after their trips and can really increase the spending. So there are different levels of economic benefit that these cruise ships can bring. And another thing I should point out is that the ships also themselves spend money in these communities. They have to buy fuel, they have crew members coming and going, so there's also economic development that way.
At Great Lakes Now, we aim to cover the Great Lakes region and the people who live here, like you. Please follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our newsletter at greatlakesnow.org.